I told him that everybody wanted Ed to be dancing, and I tried, and he started, but
I'll dance tomorrow. Okay.
You're going to dance tomorrow. Everybody, tune in. Ed's going to be dancing tomorrow.
Tomorrow I'll be a dancing fool. Now,
Welcome.
Who wrote the song "Dancing Fool"?
Frank Zappa. You're a dancing fool.
I love it.
I may be totally wrong, but I'm a dancing fool. I may be wrong, but I'm a fool, yeah. Anyways, we have a fantastic show today. Seminal, transformational evolution in the cannabis space occurred today, which I'm sure you're not hearing it here for the first time.
Yeah.
$5 billion investment from Constellation into Canopy Rivers. Constellation now making Canopy essentially a subsidiary of their enterprise. Interestingly enough, valuing Canopy Rivers at $25 billion.
Did you say Canopy Rivers?
Sorry, Canopy Growth. Canopy Rivers will be valued at
maybe everybody's got it wrong. Maybe they did put it in Canopy Rivers.
Well, wouldn't that be a surprise?
Oh,
boy! Talk about the child exceeding the success of the father.
That's quite a remarkable.
No, it's beyond remarkable. It's earth-shattering.
I
spoke to Bruce this morning shortly after the news came out at 8:07. I called Bruce and I actually texted him. Said, Bruce, how about today? He knows that I mean, how about today for an interview in the studio? He calls me back this morning, which I was shocked about. A day where you complete a $5 billion merger, you're calling me back. I'm impressed. Anyways, I say, congratulations, Bruce. So what's the story? We're going to get to do you today. He says, well, look, I'm in New York today. I'm doing Bloomberg New York, and then I'm doing CNBC. But tomorrow morning, I'll do you guys. So we have Bruce Linton here tomorrow morning to talk about the Constellation deal in the context of a discussion that will have nothing like the journalistic terms that you will be hearing on, well, CNBC is not really that journalistic. Jim Cramer is kind of off the wall and likes to make crazy sounds and hit these buttons and yeah. But anyway, so Bruce Linton's going to be here tomorrow. Today we have a spectacular show in and of itself, however. We have Brendan Kennedy here from Tilray. We have two gentlemen from a company called Cannabis Compliance. And I'll tell you, this is one of the most informative interviews I've ever done. We're going to talk about Exro Technologies today just because we continue to be big believers in the story. We are buying it actively. Full disclosure, we can buy it and sell it at any time. No further disclosure required. You have been forewarned. We have our skin in the game. We're going to talk about Golden Ridge. I bought 600,000 shares today. I was the high price of the day, sorry to say, but I'm not worried about it in the least because I have great confidence in what's going on. But full disclosure, we're buying Golden Ridge. We're going to talk about Golden Ridge. Mike Blady, CEO of Golden Ridge, is going to be here at, well, he said 3 o'clock, but clearly he's a little bit late. And then who have we got? And then we've got Suzanne. Who is that? Matt Von Teeken from Green... Matt Von Teichman from Green Space Brands, which is partnered up with Nick Dean's Emblem Corp, and that was a fantastic interview. That's actually from yesterday, but you probably didn't see that. So let's cut straight to the chase. I am about to buy 20,000 shares of Exro to kick it off. Here I go. Just so you know, this is me, 20,000 shares. And let's see. I think I'm going to buy another... oops, I put in my orders wrong. No, I actually...
Error.
No, I'm not going to get filled anyways. So boneheaded investing. Exro. What more do we know about Exro today that we didn't know yesterday?
Well, not that much.
Not that much.
No, nothing's changed. They're working on a number of transactions.
Yeah,
So
there's stuff
there's lots of stuff going on.
There's some news coming. We don't have any specific inside information, especially about news coming, but we just know that this management team is very focused on delivering a positive shareholder experience. His last gig went from 60 cents to, I think they sold the company for $4 billion to a major.
I think. Let's spit it out here. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Mark Gotze was involved significantly in a company called ID Biotech.
Okay.
And another one was Angiotech.
Okay.
I may have the name of that first one wrong, but you know, he said both of those companies were eventually sold for in the billions.
Really?
So he's got a track record.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement.
And you know, we're going to get him on the show here at some point. We're going to interview him here when he gets to Toronto.
Right. Okay. Well, that's going to be fun.
So the stock settled a bit. It had a big move up, pulled back a bit. Here we are.
Oh. All right. So Golden Ridge. What do we know about Golden Ridge today that we didn't know yesterday?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think if you go on and I saw some pictures of core that's posted on their website. It looks like the cores are similar in color, and I think black is significant because of something called boronite. Is that what the
boronite? Yeah,
is that what
boronite
it is?
is a mineral that commonly contains a lot of copper.
That's correct.
It can be up to 70% copper in chalcopyrite concentrations, is my understanding. I'm no geologist. I'm just paraphrasing what I've been told by real-life geologists, which means my chances for getting it wrong are about 50-50 because, you know, the mind plays tricks on us.
Scuttlebutt is that the cores look similar or better.
Okay.
Scuttlebutt.
Yeah,
and you know, it's something to look forward to. And I think if it is a major discovery and they start to prove based on you know, distances from the discovery hole,
if it's a world-class porphyry,
it's got to be, market cap's got to be 100 million.
Got to be.
And 100 million with 100 million shares outstanding. Just saying, because you got to count the warrants that are out there, and there's 20 million warrants in a quarter, which would throw in $5 million.
Yeah.
And that'd be $1 a share. And here the stock is what, 30 cents.
Yeah.
That's just a loose calculation. I'm not saying it's going there, but if it's a world-class discovery, it's going there.
Yeah. The to put it all into context, people are asking me, well, why are you buying gold when gold's, you know, falling through the floor? And it's like, well, this is not, we're not buying gold. What we're buying a discovery.
Yeah, exactly, which is a big difference.
Right. A discovery play does not care about the gold price. As long as there is a gold price, that's all a discovery cares about.
Yeah. The assets don't know who owns them.
That's a good one. Nor do the assets care who own them.
They don't care.
They really don't.
And if you ask them, they won't even respond.
Exactly. They don't talk. They're assets. Anyways. Yes, so as I mentioned, I did buy a whack stock today, and I do plan to keep buying this company because I have reason to believe that the discovery will take the market cap higher. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm doing and why. Like, watch right now. I'm going to smack it across the head, looking at his phone while we're on there.
Why? Well, I'm trying to find out what's going on here.
I know. Well, what's going on here?
Okay.
Ed?
Well, I don't see any charts. I'm feeling a little.
Oh, you know what? I think there's two problems with that. First of all, I'm not trying to pull up a chart. I'm trying to find that. Image that was associated with the press release yesterday on Golden Ridge, so we can point out why we're still so excited about it. Cross-section map. Here we go. Figure 1. There it is. Okay. Oops. I know what we don't have is our NDI up. NDI is the little thing that makes my computer visible to the rest of the world. There it is. Now the NDI is up. As usual, the Apple pain in the ass software is trying to update something on my machine, so we'll just get rid of that. Anyways, if we can pull up this map. This map shows where the 3 of the holes of highest interest were drilled, including the one that was announced yesterday. You guys having a hard time getting that map up? Nope.
Mop up or map up? Well,
looks like no map. No mappa. No mappa. I no mappa. Anyways, so there's 2 more holes. Well, there's 12 more holes. We know that they're all in mineralization because we've seen that from some of the pictures. Oh, there we go. Okay. So these holes here, this one is at the laboratory being assayed. This one is at the laboratory assay pending.
So these 3 are assay pending. 02, 02,
this is
5,
the
and
3rd
7.
One, assay pending.
One's been hole. Yeah. What's this one?
Right there is the discovery hole.
Right here?
Well, the black line that my pointer is on is essentially the representation of the hole. Drilled at 60-degree angle, hole 18001.
Okay, so that's So where would they have entered? Over here and got to here?
No, the collar is at the top where
Where's the collar?
the collar is the green dot that's actually blotted out
Okay,
by
so
the
then then it's drilled down there. Okay.
That's right. So that's what gets us excited about Golden Ridge. That's why we continue to buy it. That's why we continue to be enthusiastic about the gold space in general. Also, Abin Resources, ABN, they are 50 kilometers away. They announced a discovery hole this week as well. Their stock's been on a tear. There's another discovery hole announced.
Yeah,
in
I heard a rumor.
Sokeman Iron.
I heard a little rumor about Abin.
A little rumor.
Yeah,
We're stooping to rumors again, are we?
Well,
Okay, I'm with you there. What have you got? What are the little birds been telling you?
I've heard that Abin, I think feels comfortable that this play of theirs is quite large.
You think?
That's a rumor.
Well, that's
I'm going to be careful what I say because I don't want to.
some would argue yes. Some would argue yes.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what we're buying today. When we get in front of Mr. Mike Blady, who will be here shortly, we will have a discussion from, as they say, this will be coming from the horse's mouth, not from the horse's
derriere.
See, Ed, people say I put words in your mouth, but I don't. You just come up with them, don't you?
I do.
You're like you're
There's no
like,
script here.
no script, unscripted.
Yeah.
We can barely read these things. Never mind. I don't know why they're here. We can't read them.
Can't read them.
Anyways, let's talk a bit about this Constellation Brands thing again, because like I'm still like, WTF, that was like stunning. Bruce Linton has talked these guys into committing $5 billion in Canadian capital to a definitive agreement whereby Constellation Brands now owns Canopy. So that's an interesting, interesting.
And
event.
what's the stock at here?
What's the stock at right now? Well, let's see. I just happen to have it up on my chart here.
Are they going to get involved in management? No, they're not. Are they?
Well, this is going to be good because we're going to put a 50-day moving average and a 200-day moving average and see what that looks like after a deal like today. We are going to add no, we're not going to do the Bollinger Bands yet. We're going to add the lower indicators. It's going to be the RSI because it'll be interesting to see what the RSI looks like after such a transaction is announced. And drag action, add text, add draw, arrow. Ooh, this is going to be fun. Outline. No, we want the outline to be red. No, we want the outline to be green, don't we? Nope. We want it to be green. Why isn't that working? Oh, I see. I have to pull this slider. There's a nice green color. Okay. So, looking at this chart with the 200-day moving averages, of course, we're only looking at the 1 month look. 1 month look. There we go. 42.35.
Yeah.
Basically, well, what's that?
That's 1 day. That's interval of
17
1 day.
million shares traded as of this moment,
Wow.
up 30.42%.
Okay, let's put up the candles, please.
You want the candles?
Yeah, I find there's more information. I like to
right.
see the rate.
Let's move to candles.
Candles.
Candlesticks from Ed.
Candlestick.
There we go.
There we go.
Let's make it a 3 month look.
Wow.
What's going on here? Canopy Growth Corp. Why this big? This is wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
What? There's a big sell-off? Oh no, here it is.
No,
right.
There it is. Yeah, up there.
No, that's a big wick, Ed. You always said you wanted a big wick, and look what happened.
Tail. Big tail.
Big tail. Is having big tail better than having a big wick? I guess it depends on your orientation, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. It depends on where it came from, but you got a big tail here.
Whoa!
Big tail there, and it continued to move up.
Yeah.
You got a tail here, and it moved up.
What does a tail mean, Ed? What does it actually mean?
Well, it means that this is the low of the day, and this is where the low of the day. This is where it opened, and the top of the candle,
the high of the day,
is the high of the day, and the top of the wick, is the high of the day. This is where it is now. The top of the candle.
Right.
The top of the wick is where the highest where it's been. So,
okay.
We've had a big range.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, it's trading near where it opened.
Right.
Okay, it opened a little bit lower than where it is now.
Yeah.
I believe.
Interesting.
I think I got that right.
So the now the 200-day moving average in red is trending positively.
Yeah.
It's almost mimicked perfectly by the 50-day moving average, which has, however, now sort of plateaued out over the last few sessions.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Does
it mean buy, sell, hold, buy, sell?
You know what? We were really oversold yesterday.
Right.
And you pointed that out. And I said, well, it probably could get a little worse first. And it didn't, because nobody foresaw this happening.
True. Well, you know, but we have been saying all summer that the summer
15th.
doldrums will end
Around August
when
15th.
a major value catalyst occurs that lifts the whole market higher.
In all fairness, you've been saying that.
No, we've been saying that
Well,
together.
I've been sort of nodding some of them.
I see. See, that's what I like about you, Ed. You're so self-deprecating, whereas I'm so self-aggrandizing. I have delusions of grandeur.
Yes, that's true.
Which I think, you know,
Well,
I think
but then in a sense, you're self-deprecating by saying that.
Well, I am kidding.
You know what? I made a mistake once.
Really?
I thought I was wrong.
Oh, brutal.
And I turned out I wasn't.
Really? What were you wrong about?
Well, I thought that, you know, I had done something that was wrong, and then I looked upon it further, and apparently I didn't. So I made the mistake of thinking that I was wrong.
Well,
anyway, that's just a little bit of a philosophical humor. Very little. Now, this is very significant because what I really like about this chart, and again, this is the biggest one in the country, isn't it?
well,
this low held.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and you can say, yeah, but what if this didn't happen? Well, it did happen. So the charts take everything into consideration. So this low held. We tried to get there, and then kaboom.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if anybody could have predicted this. You know, I wouldn't just rush out and say, I mean, what's left for the retail investor to do with this company?
Well, you know, it's unprecedented in so many ways because they also paid a 37.9% premium over the previous 20 days closing. Now that's normal for a micro cap,
right?
But that's unprecedented for a large cap merger of this size, especially where the acquirer has to put up all that cash. Don't you think? Anyways, we're going to cut to. Who should we cut to?
You know who just walked in?
Who should we cut to?
Guess who just walked in?
Who should we cut to in the control room there? Who's in the control room ready to cut to? Hello, control room.
Everybody's awake in there?
Hey, we're going to talk to Brendan Kennedy right now. When we come back, we're going to talk to Mike Blady from Golden Ridge, so stay with us.
Live. And raw.
Live. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Brendan Kennedy, CEO of Tilray Inc., trading on NASDAQ under the symbol TLRY. Brendan, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.
So, amazing transformation from private company to high-flying NASDAQ large cap. It's kind of like you snuck up behind us and surprised everybody. So tell me about the thought process behind that whole sort of trajectory.
Sure. So it's something we'd been working on for about a year and a half, and started down this road about a year ago with investors in Canada and the U.S. About 30 meetings, 15 in the U.S., 15 in Canada, and one of the points of feedback from U.S. investors, so think blue chip, long only mutual funds, was that while a TSX listing would be interesting, they really wanted someone to be the first cannabis company to IPO on a U.S. exchange. They wanted someone regulated by the SEC, and they wanted someone who would report in U.S. GAAP,
right,
as opposed to IFRS with all of the biological asset malarkey. And so we took that feedback a year ago and started down a very specific path towards a NASDAQ IPO. We kept it pretty quiet until about 2 weeks beforehand when we had to publicly disclose.
Right. So congratulations.
Thank you.
B, I mean, the burden of compliance associated with getting an IPO onto NASDAQ as a cannabis company, must boggle the mind. I can only imagine.
You should see our legal bills for NASDAQ and SEC attorneys in order to get us through this process.
Right.
And even 30 days beforehand, a lot of people told us that it was impossible. NASDAQ, SEC will never allow it.
Wow.
But we were confident of the right path.
Sure. To what extent would the pedigree associated with privateer holdings and the people involved with privateer contribute to the fact that you were able to sort of pierce that veil as a seminal event for cannabis companies in the U.S.?
It really helped us. It helped us both in terms of our internal legal counsel and the legal counsel we were able to obtain from outside firms. Mm-hmm. It also helped with the pedigree of the investors in privateer and the investors in a Tilray round we did in January. Mm-hmm. We did a round in January that was 10 investors, 9 from the U.S., 1 from Canada, 8 of whom had never invested in cannabis before. And that helped us get us through the process. And I think that if people were to see the orders that came in for the IPO, a lot of the names on the list would surprise you because they're global blue chip firms that have never invested in this industry before.
Really? So this is the onset of the migration of the largest capital pools of the world finally into the space, I guess.
Definitely. Certainly there was a milestone event that people don't really know about in terms of who participated in the IPO. Mm-hmm. People will find out when it's disclosed in, I guess, around November. Okay. And that'll be certainly an interesting read.
Right. I'll have to put on my 8K monitors there.
That's right.
Okay, you made an interesting comment about the difference between IFRS and GAAP treatment of biological assets. Is it within your realm of expertise to have a conversation about what that is on a granular basis?
Sure. If you want,
yeah.
So I mean, you're familiar with how IFRS tracks it, and essentially revenue is being booked while a crop is being grown, and that works for certain products. It would work for chickens or pork or wheat, malt, barley, things like that. There's a lot more variability in terms of cannabis, and so you get this weird situation where companies have gross profit higher than gross revenue.
Negative cost of sales.
That's right. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Well, that's amazing.
And so you just don't see that. Right. There's no accounting for biological assets in U.S. GAAP, and so it's revenue is revenue.
Right. So a biological asset can be referred to in inventory, but it can't be added as a input on the balance sheet.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Well, that's comforting to me. I know it's comforting to Al Rosen, who's a forensic accountant we have on the show a lot, because he calls the Canadian big ACMPR growers accounting standards. He calls them financial statements of mass delusion.
And that was certainly what our investors, New York, Boston, mutual funds, they didn't want that.
Right.
They wanted U.S. GAAP because it's something they understand, and it's
well,
apples to apples.
I don't want IFRS treatment because it's like, I seriously, evaluating a company's balance sheet and financials, you have to go through and say, okay, get this negative cost of sales malarkey out of there, and now we generate a real balance sheet. It's astounding to me that practice is permitted, but let's move on. We've said our piece on that.
Sounds good.
Tell me about Tilray's sort of global footprint right now in terms of operations and growth initiatives.
Sure. So let's see. On the cultivation side, the capacity side, we started the year with a capacity of about 8 metric tons. We'll end the year at a run rate capacity of about 90 metric tons, so 90 million grams. So an 11x increase in capacity. We have our existing facility in Nanaimo, British Columbia. We have a 100-acre piece of property in southern Ontario in the township of Enniskillen. Has a 13-acre greenhouse on it, fully operational. And then in Portugal, we have a facility where we We grow indoor and outdoor today. I think, as far as I know, we're the only LP that currently grows outdoor somewhere in the world. And we're building a state-of-the-art Dutch glass house there as well. And so Portugal will really be our hub and our production facility for all of our exports to the EU.
Sure.
And so really, it's ideal climate, low-cost labor, tariff-free access to the EU. And so we'll supply all the products for the EU from the EU. Going forward. Currently, Tilray products are available in, I think, 11 countries on 5 continents, and we continue to add new countries on a regular basis. Today, we export everything from Canada, and we'll start dividing that up between Canada and Portugal fairly soon.
Interesting. So then I'm going to suggest then being a private company for the bulk of your existence up until now has not been an impediment to accessing capital or projecting your Tilray sort of strategy across the world.
Definitely not. In some ways, it was an advantage because we were really managing to long-term growth, and our investors really take a long view of the industry. I've been doing this for 8 years. I started in May of 2010 in the cannabis industry, and I tell our employees every day this is day one in the industry. And being private certainly was hugely advantageous to us over the last 5 years. And Tilray, our investors certainly benefited from waiting as long as we did because it really helped with that IPO market cap that was really different from anything we've seen anywhere else in the industry. We were at a disadvantage over the last year to 2 years. Really on 2 points. One is while we were able to raise significant capital from private investors or investors willing to invest in private companies, it just takes more time than accessing capital through a public market. And so that was one disadvantage. We'll be able to raise capital much more quickly now.
Sure.
And then we didn't have a public company stock as currency.
Right.
And so we haven't been able to conduct M&A transactions with ease like many of our competitors. And we will conduct, I imagine we'll conduct a few M&A transactions over the coming months, but they'll also be really different from what I've seen out there.
Right.
We're not out looking for a billion-dollar acquisition. That's just not in our DNA.
Sure. The federal prohibition on cannabis in the United States is probably responsible for your choice to grow and ship cannabis from Canada, but it's somewhat counterintuitive and surprising that NASDAQ would allow a cannabis company onto the premier exchange of the United States in many respects, even while federal prohibition existed. So is there some kind of tacit sort of understanding between your legal team and the federal government that makes this possible, or is it even necessary given the incremental pro-cannabis movement that's being made towards federal deprohibition?
No, so what it really means is that everything we do everywhere in the world is legal in the country in which we operate. So we fully comply with Canadian laws, Portuguese laws, German laws, Australian laws. We have 370 employees in 7 countries, and everything we do everywhere we operate is fully legal. And so that is what has allowed us to list in the U.S. If you think about a good example would be a company like Sanofi. Sanofi grows poppies in Spain. It would be very illegal if they were to grow poppies in the U.S. to produce opioid alkaloids for pharmaceuticals. And so that's probably the closest analog. Everything we do complies with laws and regulations in all of the countries in which we operate.
Sure.
And so that's how the U.S. government looks at how we operate and why the SEC allowed us to list in the U.S.
I see. Interesting. So from your sort of internal viewpoint, if it's not too much of an invasion of privacy, what do you see happening in terms of when does deprohibition at the federal level happen, especially in view of the fact that the FDA is now in conflict with the DEA as a result of the licensing of an FDA drug by GW Pharma?
Yeah, so I'll speak about a couple of different opportunities, right, that I see taking place. So, when I started 8 years ago, there were 15 countries in the world that had legalized medical cannabis. Today, there's over 35, and it's the pace of change it's so fast, right? In the last 8 weeks, the UK went from not even talking about, I would have predicted the UK would be the last country in the world to legalize medical cannabis. They went from not talking about it 8 weeks ago to legalizing over an 8-week period, like just astounding growth or change. I see how we get from 35 countries to 40 to 50 to 60 in a pretty short amount of time. A year, 2, 3 years, you're going to see just more and more countries legalize medical cannabis. And so that's a huge opportunity. Obviously, we're going to go from one country in the world, Uruguay, that has legalized cannabis for adult use, to 2. So 100% growth or 1,000% growth. If you think about 3.5 million people in Uruguay and 35 million in Canada. Right. And I predict you'll see what I call country number 3 within 12 months of October. And that country will base their regulations on Canada's adult use regulations. And so those are, and you'll see country 3 and country 4 and country 5 in terms of adult use. And so those are the 2 global dynamics that are taking place. And at some point, I think within the next 3 or 4 years, you'll see the U.S. Change its laws. And I think it'll end up being something like a states' rights law. If you look at Congress, a majority of Congress in the U.S. now comes from a district that has legalized some form of cannabis.
Right, right. Okay, and finally, let's talk a bit about the valuation of Tilray, and how do you backfill this valuation in the next 6, 12, 24 months so that it is less speculative and more on the balance sheet, or am I misunderstanding the valuation?
So for us, there have been a lot of metrics that have been used over the last 5 years in this industry to justify really these public company valuations. And certainly we benefited from being able to point to them as comparables over the last 5 years. And if you look back, it used to be about number of patients or vault capacity was a particularly odd valuation metric. Sure. And then funded capacity. At some point, I would say after October 17th, we're actually going to be pointing to 2 real metrics: revenue and profit, and that'll be a relief to shed all those other metrics. And so when I think about the next 2, 3, 4 years for Tilray, it'll be about increasing revenue, revenue from global medical cannabis, and obviously revenue from adult use cannabis here in Canada and other countries that may legalize. And so we need to continue to build out our capacity and build out brands and products that Canadian consumers love.
Okay, well that's a great update. Congratulations on the Go Public strategy, and thank you for coming in and filling us in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment here is none other than Mike Blady, CEO of Golden Ridge Resources, who announced yesterday a incredible, we're going to call that a discovery hole, Mike, if we can.
Yes, you may.
327 meters, grading 0.31% copper, 0.35 grams per ton gold, 1.94 grams per ton silver. There's additional holes coming, and that's why I just bought another 100,000 shares out of the market right now. Just saying. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm doing and why. So, Mike, what's the deal here? What kind of discovery is this?
James, Ed, it's always nice to see you guys when I come through Toronto again. So thanks for welcoming me back. I guess I had some good timing. We had news out, so it's always...
We thought you planned it this way.
It makes me a little bit more interesting when there's news, I guess.
I feel like there's a little more demand for your presence.
Yeah, your discourse.
The one thing, though, it's a little hot in Toronto today. The humidity's been kind of dragging me down a bit. So I'm a little,
this is no
I'm a little flustered. But,
that's good.
I don't know.
Well, we're going to talk about Verklempt after we do Mike's
Okay.
segment here.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been working hard up in the Golden Triangle. This is our third year of pretty extensive work that we've done up there. Last year we made a discovery, the Williams Zone at surface, but all we had was in situ rock samples. We didn't have any drill core or anything like that. It was geophysics, geochem, and some good old-fashioned hand stripping and hand trenching to get down to the bedrock. So we put news out on that late last year, and no one really batted an eyelid. And then we went back this year, and our first drill hole, we made a discovery. We had that nice intercept that you talked about.
Viewers should know that Mike's a geologist, just saying.
Yeah, among other things.
Among other things, but the fact that he's a
Geologist is all you
scientist
need to
as
know
well.
for today. Exactly. You know,
Just to add to the veracity of our discussion.
it's serious business.
Just saying.
So, Mike, the like when you say a discovery, just because we're going to assume that a large part of our audience is smoking a lot of cannabis and probably is not conversant with mining terms. So,
Sure.
what exactly constitutes a discovery?
Well, in my mind, a discovery is something that's previously unknown, and exactly what it is, previously unknown, and then when you discover it, it has potentially mineral that's economic or ore grade,
Potentially.
Or body size, like it.
Yeah, it has, the size, potential grade, and previously was unknown about.
Right.
In my mind, that's a discovery, right? Some people might call it a showing until you can prove it's actually economic, but I think it's a discovery because, as we know, metal prices fluctuate drastically. So one day it could be economic, one day it could not be economic.
Right. In which case, care and maintenance.
Yeah.
So in this context, essentially what you've done is drilled 327 meters, which for our U.S. friends is over 1,000 feet of mineralization that contains an average grade of 0.3% copper. Now, you've got, if we were to look at the other charts here, this map that is going to be on the screen in 4.
There we go.
1 second. So you've got other holes at the lab.
We do, yes. So we have been drilling. One rig has been basically dedicated to the Williams Zone this year. The other rig is across the valley at the epithermal targets we were drilling last year, so the lower alteration zone.
This is the lower alteration.
Nope, this is the Williams Zone.
Oh.
Williams Zone is the new discovery.
Okay.
Lower alteration zone is old. It's been there a long time. That was discovered by Black
But there's
Minerals.
also an upper alteration zone.
There is an upper alteration
so there's
zone.
three areas now.
And then we've added a fourth conceptual target called the boiling zone.
Boiling.
Which is in between the lower alteration zone and the upper alteration zone.
Is that where you boil the water for your coffee?
The boiling refers to epithermal systems are normally very close to surface when they form. And what happens is these very hot mineral-rich fluids, as they come up from depth, there's a certain point when the pressure is low enough that the water turns to vapor. And that's called the boiling zone. And normally in the boiling zone, what happens there is you got a lot of precipitation of metals. And depending on what
water
part,
evaporates, leaving the metals, and they...
Correct. The metals can't evaporate. They can't fly away like the water molecules do. So they're in place. They're in the rock. Right? So the boiling zone specifically refers to the temperature, the point where the gold is most likely to precipitate or
copper, or...
This is in specific reference to gold, because if you look at the boiling zone diagram of the map of the entire property, it's an area about 500 meters in diameter of 5 grams gold in soil or higher, which is extremely anomalous.
Okay.
That's, up there with...
So the discovery is the hole designated 1. That's the discovery.
Correct, and that's in the Williams zone.
And that's in the Williams. Yeah, that's where that's the copper area.
Okay, so we're expecting you're going to release in a news release when the lab is done with them 3 additional holes from this zone, and then the rest are across the valley, or that's where you're drilling next.
There's 2 drills.
2 drills. So one's focusing on the Williams.
Right.
I believe we're going to drill 8 holes there at least.
8 more holes.
No,
8
8
total.
8 total, and you've drilled 4 now?
We've drilled at least 6 now.
okay,
There might
so-
have been one more. So we
this-
have
this-
about 2 more to go.
So looking at the map,
The map's a little outdated then, this map.
This map was, made last week. So we have a new PowerPoint that's,
Last
that's
so it's only 1 week old.
Well, we
don't
drilled quick.
consider that outdated.
we drill quick up there. So we've
Yeah.
updated the PowerPoint.
Okay.
If it hasn't been uploaded to the website yet, it will be today for sure. And basically it shows all of the drill holes we have done to date on a plan map for people. So where we're at is I believe we're on hole number 13 now total out of the 6,000 meter program.
Okay.
And that's what you budgeted? You budgeted a
6,000 meters.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're on hole 13, and we're I believe about
And how are
80,
these holes?
75 to 80% complete the drilling program.
Did this hole end in ore when you drilled it, the 327, or did it stop and then you drilled further?
Yeah, it was still mineralized. Yeah.
So in all these holes, is the mineralization you're running into the bornite?
Yeah. So normally the system that we're in, the porphyry system, it has a phyllic alteration zone around it, which is very close to the potassic core. And the phyllic normally has a lot of QSP alteration, a lot of clay. It is also mineralized, but it's normally less mineralized than the monzonite, right?
Okay.
And then once we get into the monzonite, and when you start seeing boronite, that's a sign that you're close to the high temperature core of the system.
The boiling zone.
No, the boiling zone's epithermal. So I don't want to have to break.
Damn, I thought I was.
You and I should go get our degree in geology, I think.
That would take too long.
Oh,
There would be a geological time commitment.
wonder-
So in a textbook, basically, when you go back to school and get your guys' geology degrees, they'll show you a diagram of a porphyry system. And normally how porphyries work is they form a couple kilometers deep in the earth at minimum, right? And then there's another area of mesothermal gold, which is kind of in between porphyry and epithermal. And then epithermal is normally within about 500 meters to the surface, right? So epithermal and the boiling zone is one thing. 2 kilometers down, there's so much pressure and the temperature's so high, there's no boiling going on there. It's fluid because of the pressure, right?
The pressure
it
prevents
can't
it
boil.
from
Correct. It
bubbling
cannot boil.
away. I
But
get
once
that.
it gets close, within a few hundred meters of the surface, there's enough, the surface pressure and the cracks and
Sure.
gaps in the rock, it's able to expand and it's able to boil, right? So the boiling zone is only epithermal. It's only to the south of the Williams Zone, across the creek. Yes. Yeah.
Now, I see
Interesting.
we're looking at some information about world-class porphyry zones in
Well, we
Europe.
can't find a good enough image, so we're not going to bother. This is sort of geology 101.
what's
But
the-
let's look at what the discovery has done for your share price and talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
So you announced the discovery here. Stock started moving here. I suspect this is drillers buying or something. Well, it was me buying.
You know, what's funny is we had a really nice run up kind of at the beginning of July when we started drilling.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, it seemed like the whole market softened. Obviously, at that time, we were...
Summer doldrums, perhaps.
Yeah.
Skoka fever.
I thought we were going to kind of hang out around the 20-cent range and then put out news and then see if the market liked it or not, whether the stock went up and down. But I was actually up at the project the whole time when it started cratering there. So I guess maybe I wasn't doing my public service duty to the shareholders and answering calls and keeping people informed. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what's the deepest hole you're going to drill in the Williams?
Deepest hole we've drilled to date there is 603.5 meters.
Okay.
Hole 13, which we're drilling now, hopefully we're going to push the limits of this drill and try and set a new depth record at the Hank.
Whoa.
So,
It gets
That's exciting.
The lower you go, the rock gets a lot more dense, doesn't it?
it's not so much the density. The problem is the drill is powered by a motor, and the motor only has so much horsepower.
Well, maybe
so,
we need to get extra ones.
That's what I was just thinking.
So,
Hey.
so every time you're adding on more drill string, which is heavy metal, that it's harder and harder for that motor to turn the bit that's way down on the end of it.
Right,
So
right.
eventually, you know, you don't have enough horsepower to keep drilling. And normally what happens with these is they're the Hydrocore 2000, so they're designed to go to about 2,000 feet of depth, right? So once you get past that, the drilling slows down a lot, and
So
it becomes very
feet,
expensive.
600 meters roughly.
Roughly, yeah. So it becomes cost prohibitive after that. You can keep drilling, but you know, if the rod gets stuck or something jams or you have to pull the rod string, it takes the drillers a long time. And yeah, if you get the rod stuck down there and you can't get it out, guess who's on the hook to buy all new rod string? Not the drillers, the companies. So we try not to get the drill string stuck. Yeah, the shareholders, correct.
Which you are probably the largest shareholder of this company.
Which I'm a large shareholder of.
And do you know how many shares you own of this, or what percentage of this?
To be honest, I don't really off the top, but you know, a few
10%?
million. So not quite that high.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
So when can we expect more drill results?
So we have, you know, assays kind of trickling in now. So we obviously have to get the next entire hole, and we have to QAQC it and make sure it's all tickety-boo, and the lab's been holding up their end of the bargain. So
You don't own the lab.
no, we do not own the lab.
That's
we
a
do
great
not own the lab.
idea.
Not bad. I own the drills, I own the lab, I own the holes.
Vertical integration.
Vertical integration.
There you go.
And in the drilling business. That's easy to understand.
Then maybe have a reporting service that describes things and maybe throws out hints once in a while.
You should buy IROC.
Are they for sale?
And then put it out of business.
And own the TMX while you're at it. Exactly. All the stocks would go up.
Now, would you ever release partial assays, or is that frowned upon? That's bad practice, isn't it?
We wouldn't. I think it's important, especially if you're drilling a large kind of bulk tonnage target, to get the full picture and the full scope. I think if we just did like the first 100 meters and we're like, oh, we're just starting to get into it at the end of the hole, I think that can be misleading for people. So we do at least one entire hole at a time. Looks like we hopefully will have 2 holes complete at the same time from the lab. That's what we're pushing them to do.
So you're going to have 2 holes done for the next. You're thinking that.
Hopefully, yeah. We're still waiting for it to trickle in, and then we have a procedure for our QAQC that, you know, if certain samples are over limit or certain samples are, you know, ore grade, they call it at the lab, we have to do extra testing on them. So that can sometimes delay the results coming out a little bit, because even if our lab's turning it around in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then we get the results back and we're like, oh, look at that, this one's over limit, this one's over limit, this one's over limit. Okay. Then we have to resend it back to them, or they take the pulp that they already have and they have to reanalyze it.
So best case scenario, when will we see some more results published in a press release?
I love how you put me on the spot.
I mean,
why is Mike sweating all of a sudden?
Exactly.
I'm actually, this is the coolest I've been all day. This is great.
Assuming nothing goes sideways, the QAQC happens. When do we see more results?
Couple weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it there, Mike, for now. Thank you very much.
Well, never mind. Go ahead.
No, by all means, you have another question.
You said these things are numbered chronologically as they're drilled.
Yeah.
So the next hole is number 2, which is on the Williams.
Correct.
And 3 and 4 are in the lower alteration.
Correct. And then 5's back in the Williams.
If we go,
the Kite zone, not technically the lower alteration. It's a new zone we discovered last year. We drilled.
So theoretically, we should get number 2 next.
2 and
3 and
hopefully 2 and 3. Yeah.
Okay.
So
but 3 is.
So what happened is we have 2 drills going this year.
Yeah.
The second drill was a little bit late getting up there. The drillers were kind of slow getting up there.
Yeah.
And then we had some initial mechanical problems. So that's why the first couple holes were on the Williams zone, and then kind of jumps around.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's great. So it looks like, stay tuned.
Everything's running smoothly up there now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next up,
25
we've
million
got
shares
Michael
yesterday,
Elkin and Deepak Anand from cannabiscompliance.ca. We're going to talk to them about some of the more intricate aspects of compliance in the cannabis industry right now. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. Bit out of the ordinary today. We've got two gentlemen here from Cannabis Compliance. Michael Elkin is the Director of Strategic Sales, and Deepak Anand is the Vice President. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, James.
Why don't we start with an overview with you, Deepak. What is it that Cannabis Compliance does, and who are their customers?
So we're a regulatory compliance firm, and we work with licensed producers and applicants that have traditionally gone after cultivation because it's been a fully vertically integrated model in Canada. It's been seed to sale, and we've worked with hundreds of applicants and licensed producers. We're now busy on the retail side. We're assisting sort of companies that are in various provinces that are allow private retail to be set up there.
Mm-hmm. So then, am I to interpret that as you guys are experts in the law of cannabis, in the law and complying with the law for growers?
Yeah,
and now retail.
Absolutely, and it really spans on a global footprint. The way that I kind of describe it is you have all these governments around the world that are legalizing some type of framework around the actual plant. So what we basically do is work with companies and entrepreneurs, basically have them touch the plant in any form that they want to. So whether it's cultivation, production, manufacturing, transportation, in Canada or in Germany, CCI basically specializes in that expertise.
And what we're finding is we do a lot of work around the world. We're finding various federal governments come to us and say, how did you do it in Canada? You know, I've had the opportunity working very closely with our federal government here over the past 5 years in developing, shaping policy. So we're taking those best practices and implementing them internationally in Lesotho and Colombia and Jamaica and many other jurisdictions as they look to legalize.
Mm-hmm. Lesotho is interesting to me because it's like a postage stamp size country.
Yeah.
Yet all these cannabis growers are like doing deals, and it's like, so what is, like Lesotho is a country within the geographical boundary of South Africa.
Correct, yeah.
So how is it that this little country here is doing such amazing big things all over the world?
So I had the opportunity of going there just last month, and I met with various ministers in the cabinet there, and we're doing that on behalf of a client there. You know, what they have decided is they've got access to a lot of land, a lot of water, and very, very cheap labor. But what they've decided to do is, you know, we want to get ahead of this game. We want to be able to make sure we've got a regulatory structure in place that permits for exports in a significant way. And they're really leveraging that. You know, they've taken this early lead on. I kind of compare it to where New Brunswick was on this file 3 years ago. You know, they got a very early lead on sort of the cannabis file. They handed it to the Economic Development sort of ministry. And Lesotho is doing a very similar thing. They're getting ahead of this.
Well, that's interesting. So currently in Canada, I'm curious as to, are you cognizant with the number of applicants that are still in process at Health Canada?
So the last number we got, and I asked for an update just last week, it was about 550 people are currently sort of in the queue, and that's probably, James, over 650 at this point.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are all people still applying for growing licenses under Health Canada?
This is still people that have been in the queue for the last 4 to 5 years that are working through the various stages of security clearance, evidentiary packages, full build-outs.
Okay.
And so we represent about 35 to 40% of those active applications, along with working about 50 to 60 of the 115 LPs right now.
Mm-hmm.
So helping them, you know, Site Bs, oil amendment licenses, you know, new markets, expanding.
Genetics, import, exports. I mean, exports is a huge one. We're doing a lot of work in Europe, getting people GMP certification, all of those sorts of things.
Interesting. So it's overwhelming to me that there's still licensing grow ops in Canada because it's like, you know, once it's all said and done, we'll have enough pot to keep the world high 3 times over by the looks of things.
Right.
Well, I think that's an interesting conversation. We keep having this supply-demand sort of conversation, and you know, and often people are like, you know, is it a commodity? Are we going to be like Oregon? Is there going to be an oversupply? What I think most people don't realize is there's a lot of international demand, and the countries are coming online what looks like almost daily. You look at Italy, you look at France recently make some announcements. The UK is certainly proceeding down this route.
That German RFP that's out that's closing October 22nd. I mean, they're looking for importation. There's going to be no domestic cultivation in Germany, we don't think, for at least 5 years. I mean, look how long it's taken us to get some type of base foundation set up for this. I mean, it's taken us roughly 5 years to do that. So I mean, the amount of and all these countries are looking to Canada, right? They want the federally regulated program, and they want the quality, and then that's where we fit in.
Well, we also had sort of the long growing pain from MMAR in 2002, which sort of defined and informed the experience that resulted in MMPR and then ACMPR,
and now the Cannabis Act.
And what we're really seeing now, you know, Deepak's been in the industry for 5 years since day one. Same thing with me. Is it's almost like a reset, right? The Cannabis Act is resetting these regulations. It's giving an opportunity for maybe possible MMAR growers to get into the actual space. And I said this to somebody yesterday. Now is when you really see a separation in LPs, in consulting firms, in extraction companies. Now is when the separation happens, and there's another push for like another next 5 years. So it's really exciting for us.
And also, we've only really done two things well in this country so far, James. We've sort of we've grown cannabis, we've been cultivators, and we've sold dried product and oils. That's not where the puck is going. I mean, you look at U.S. states that have legalized, it's the edibles, the vapes, the concentrates, the extracts. So clearly there's room for a number of different players to come in here, and we're doing a lot of work sort of in the U.S., bringing U.S. companies up.
We've landed two of the biggest brands from California. So Cannabis, that has the Select Oil vape pen, we were the ones that brought them into Canada. That deal that happened a couple of days ago with Kronos for a 100,000 kilo supply agreement. We were smack dab in the middle of that.
So they're bringing...
We're getting them operationally licensed in Canada. They've created a Canadian entity. They're filing for a standard processor license. They will be manufacturing Select Oil vape pens in Canada with Kronos supply.
And that's one of 10 large deals that we currently have going on of similar, maybe even greater values.
Wow, very interesting. So I should really be on the phone with you guys once a week and be looking 100%. For public company opportunities.
Absolutely.
Everything is up.
Okay.
We're live.
That's right. Okay, so in the regulatory landscape, I mean, I'm curious as to the international markets. Are these people so Germany's basically adopted the stance that we're not going to become growers for at least 5 years.
Correct.
Is there a time on the horizon where all these countries are going to say, you know what, thanks very much, Canadians, now hit the road because we're going to seize the economic opportunity for ourselves, and is there a risk of that?
Domestic cultivation sort of thing?
So what we're finding is obviously clearly a lot of demand coming in currently from Canada, and I see that continuing post them setting up a domestic cultivation plan. Where they are currently is they don't have enough product even post this licensure that they're going about doing. They're going to license up to a maximum of 30 companies, probably 10 will get licensed. Their outputs are not going to sort of meet their demand needs. I mean, just to give you an idea, currently, James, it's cannabis is retailing for about 25 euros a gram in that market, and they're out of stock at that price. So this is going to continue, and as Mike said, it's going to take 5 years for any country to really figure out and get a handle on this. And I think by that time they're going to almost look at saying, there's countries like Lesotho, Colombia, and Jamaica that are doing this really well. Let's do what we've always done: is manufacturing versus growing. I think the growing will be done elsewhere by that time. I don't think you're going to see a lot of this growing happening. And that's, if you look at a lot of the LPs now, they're moving this IP on growing over to countries like that, which makes a lot of sense.
Sure. Now, one of the other main issues that sort of is something I can't really wrap my head around is I look at all the illegal dispensaries in, let's say, start with Toronto, of which there's well over 100. And I walk by two of them every day on my way to and from work, and they're both like lineups around the corner, cash business. There's no taxes being paid there, and but they are asking for ID. You walk into these stores, they've got manufactured product that looks like it came from Shoppers Drug Mart, and and Ontario's stance has been very clear. Absolutely no way. But in BC, they've been giving out licenses to dispensaries that would never fly in Ontario. So how do you reconcile that under a federal recreational policy that permits participants who comply with the Cannabis Act but denies access to the market to those who do not comply? I mean, are all these Ontario dispensary operators going to find themselves arrested and shut down?
Absolutely. I think if you notice the announcement, the Attorney General clearly said stop. I mean, that was the key message out of that announcement. The previous Attorney General said the same thing. James, there's a couple of things going on. There's a bill called Bill C-46 that doesn't deal with the Cannabis Act or legalization, but it does criminal penalties, and this is at a federal level. And then
Controlled Substances Act?
Well, yeah, so it's something called C-46, which is basically beyond a controlled drugs and substances. It's a police and law enforcement type bill that that brings in impaired driving, it brings in penalties for working outside the system, dealing with minors, all of those different things into play. And so there's a federal bill, and then there's sort of provincial bills that kind of mirror that. Okay. So what, you know, the key message here is there's enforcement is going to step up. And you're looking at provinces like BC and Ontario that have had dispensaries say, come into the system now, we'll make a sort of a pathway for you to get to the legal space, but comply. And so we find a lot of people coming to us saying, you know, from that market saying, how do we comply? And there is a pathway. There's a real opportunity here provided by the federal government and provincial governments to get into the game. So, you know, I have a lot of dispensaries saying, look, I'm making a lot of revenue. I would have to give that up. On the one side, we're like, listen, you look at the upside, you know, you're going to do really, really well. Because again, back to that comment on dried product and oils, nobody's done this in the market better than you guys. Right. So there's an opportunity for you to transition into the market and really capture that space.
So these illegal dispensaries, there is a clear pathway towards legitimizing themselves?
Certainly, in provinces like BC and Ontario, absolutely. Alberta, on the other hand, not so much. But BC and Ontario certainly have that pathway.
Wow,
yes.
So you guys are going to be busy beavers for a long time.
Our website almost crashed the other day when the Ontario announcement came out. So we've
absolutely
actively been fielding calls for the last 3 days.
Oh, that's interesting.
So lots of excitement going on.
So then from where you sit, do you think that if all of the dispensaries in the illegal space move to qualify for legitimate operating status, are they going to represent a substantial market share of the retail established or the retail demand?
I think it's going to be an interesting battle that you have. On one hand, they've been operating in this illegal space for so long, so it's that old,
and they have loyal customers.
Correct.
100%, and so it's teaching that, you know, old dog new tricks, how to comply. Do they want to comply? And then you have, on the other hand, companies like Tokyo Smoke that are coming in. They're going to make a hard push for real estate. So I think one of the biggest takeaways that we got from the announcement, you know, about April 1st going live with 500 stores, is that it's going to filter out who is ready to play and who is ready to pay to play. And I think, you know, it's a huge land grab right now. It's going to be, you know, who understands the way that every other province has rolled out their retail, right? So understanding the zoning, understanding you have to communicate with municipalities, and then taking that time now to get set up and be ready for April 1st. And that's sort of like the phone calls that we're receiving right now, you know.
Oh, okay. So there are documents available that define clearly what the physical location has to be met?
So in BC and Alberta, they are very clear definitions. And if you look at the Ontario announcement, they said we're going to follow models like Alberta and sort
How
of
could it be any different than what they're not going to allow a store near a hospital or near a daycare or near a school? So
right.
it's common sense right now, which is not so common. But you know, you got to look at these legal dispensaries. They're anywhere they want to be.
Right.
So it's a question of, do they have the wherewithal to go find the real estate in the zoned municipalities properly? So it's a battle between, you know, corporate entities that are coming in hard and the old regime that we've been dealing with for the last 20, 25 years.
And the provincial government here doesn't want to recreate the wheel. They're going to adopt best practices from many other provinces that are now well under this path of sort of licensing retail.
It's pretty amazing that they came out with when the Wynne government announced the OCS stores, and every other province has presented their retail framework, and now all of a sudden Ontario gets to reset the entire thing. So they've looked at every province come out, and now they've completely flipped the game. They're going to be the best of the best, we hope. And with the most, right? I mean, they've announced 500 stores April 1st, so that's clearly the biggest.
And they have an opportunity to sort of look at what was not done well. Like, there's clearly flaws in the BC model, there's flaws in the Alberta model. Now you can have a perfect system.
Very, very interesting. All right, guys, we're going to have to cut it there. It's been as long as we can take up on this. I could talk to you guys for hours because seriously, there is so much to discuss, so much to understand about how it's going to play out. I've really felt I've learned something today, so thank you so much for coming in.
Appreciate that.
I'm going to have you back really soon.
Excellent.
For sure.
Thanks so much, James.
Who would have ever thought that compliance could be such a big problem?
Is it making sure that the product is pure?
Well, I mean, no, in terms of these guys are dealing with applicants who have been in the queue for 4 years and 5 years, and they're still in the process of applying for a license. Over 500. Like, that's a lot of licenses yet to come down the pike in the Canadian market.
So can you infer from that comment you made that there's a lot more people wanting to grow marijuana?
You mean on the corporate side? Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just going to make the prices stay reasonably. There won't be a shortage of marijuana, will there?
Well,
I guess it depends how much.
these guys are saying that. So they've done two things. They've created a pathway for illegal dispensaries to become legitimate within the context of the new Cannabis Act. I had not heard that before, and I was unaware of that. So that's means that a lot of these dispensaries have big client lists are going to be able to come into the system with their client list, and all they're going to have to do is source the cannabis from legitimate sources to be compliant. Now that's interesting. Anyways, let's, oh, I see, wait a sec, we got to bring up the, whatchamacallit, the NDI unit.
Did you ask these gentlemen about dispensaries that are operating right now that claim to be there for medical reasons?
I did not.
And
no, we didn't have that conversation.
okay, is that something you just wouldn't bring up?
They wouldn't know because they don't deal with illegitimate guys directly.
But these are guys that are operating in plain view.
Yeah, I know, illegally. Anyways, looking at the whole cannabis sector today.
Yeah, let's look up a couple of your indices.
Well, there we go.
Okay.
22% rise in the broader large cap index today.
Whoa.
So the rising tide did indeed lift all boats today. And that is basically Bruce Linton and Canopy Growth at work with Constellation, catalyzing the value catalyst we knew was out there somewhere. We obviously didn't know what it was, but everybody gets lift. But the large caps got the biggest lift. Obviously, everybody who's watching understands that, oh, well, if Canopy's got a $5 billion deal with a major adult beverage sector manufacturer, then who might be next? And who might be next indeed? If we go to the index page, look who did just as well almost today. Our friends at Aurora put on $1.05, nearly 20% up, because if you're going to do a big deal with another big cannabis producer, who's it going to be? Ghostbusters? I don't think so.
Who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters!
Look at that move on Afria, 20.18%.
Yeah.
So why is Afria? I thought that was ranked by percentage change. No, it's probably by market cap. Yes.
This is ranked by market cap.
Yeah. Okay. So Kronos being the fourth largest was up 12% today.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see that as you got into the smaller market capitalization companies, if I said that right, I guess the percentages would become less and less. And in fact, I saw a couple today that were down.
Well, I mean, if we go...
High Hampton was down today.
High Hampton, yeah.
But that's nothing to do with Canadian, right? That's...
Yeah, well, if we go look at the CSE index, which despite this big rise in a single day on the major index, the CSE is still the best performing index overall for stock.
Sure. And
just because it's 15 times capital from January 1, 2015.
Only...
So let's see what companies here lost. Health Space Data Systems, not really a cannabis company, down 11%. Koyos Beverage, not really a cannabis company. Lean Life Health. You see, all of these companies are, well, High Hampton down dramatically, 4% to 48 cents.
Well, down 2 cents, but that's a recent low. That's not seen 48 cents now.
Let's take a look at their chart.
I'd say January of 2018.
Do you own any stock in this one, Ed? We're talking about it, so we have to know.
I do not own any.
You don't own any, neither do I. So
I do not own any, and
so therefore
that looks lower. You know, I hate to say it. Yeah. It looks lower. I know they're doing lots of things. They're
yeah. Let's go check out the technical charts here a little bit. I want to see what ACB looks like now in the context of today's market. And this is a 3-month look.
Yeah, wow.
So, like, look at the RSIs just reversed from a low of 19 yesterday.
You know what? We didn't look at the RSI yesterday, and you know what? If I would have saw 19, I would have said that's when you get into the under the 20, that's rarefied air.
That means reversal imminent.
As similarly, when you get over 80, okay, 81, 82. stop buying, start selling.
Right.
Because if you just go and look at,
spit it out, Ed.
Mommy.
All right. Well, let's see what GLDN did today.
I need a drink.
Yeah, boy. Not now,
Okay,
Ed.
so no, not now.
All right. So now GLDN is back up over 74. Is that due to my buying frenzy today?
No, but it's back down. That's down from where it was yesterday. Look where it was yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it's backed off.
Yeah. So it's going to back off, and,
Yeah.
and it's down a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I'm going to throw something out here, and this is just an observation. I'm going to say there's a possibility, and if you're long, you don't want to hear this, but it could fill this gap between 24 and 26 because there's a gap now, But we heard Michael Blady say news in 2 weeks.
Well, that's just it. That's why I bought 700,000 shares today.
I know,
I felt like I sold too early yesterday. Looks like I caught more or less the high. And now I bought at the high today. Like, boy, what's wrong with this picture?
It's called being whipped around.
Well, the bottom line is my attitude this morning was I want to own 1 million shares of Golden Ridge at any price below 40.
So my comment to you, because you're publicly declaring your actions.
Yeah.
I'd say now, if you see 28, buy some more. If you see 26, buy some more.
Well, we've got 2 weeks till results come out now. Now I'm going to fill up the last third of my million share intent with shorter prices, and I'll average it down. So
yeah. In other words, if it doesn't go lower, don't buy anymore.
Yeah. So if this was a porphyry discovery that had, let's call it, say, 1 kilometer of strike length.
The one question I wanted to ask Mike was, what kind of if all these other holes start to corroborate what the first hole suggests, what would be a reasonable market cap? And I think we talked about it a bit last night. I think 100 million is easy. 100 million is easy because some of these others that found things last year got to 200 million market caps. So if this went to 200 million, we're talking $2 a share.
$2 a share.
$2 a share. And that's assuming that the 20 million 25-cent warrants get converted, which they will. So
if I bought 1 million shares at average price 30 cents and I sold it at $2,
you put in 300, you take out 2 million. I don't know if it's worth it.
That would be a good payday.
1.7. I think our show is going to go on for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. What if they were to hit like a big gold intercept in there as well? I mean, it's a porphyry, right? So that could happen.
Well, there's gold there, but you know what? These are pretty, I think, fairly homogeneous, very large ore bodies. Mike's the geologist. I don't want to speak for him. What would really be interesting if they found a big gold intercept in the lower alteration zone and the boiling zone.
Oh boy, we're taking the show to a whole new low today.
Sometimes I think your waves and my waves are moving in sync. I'm thinking, I just can't believe this.
You think we were like little ponies in a previous life or something? Anyways, you know what? We've been egregiously remiss on one key function of our daily existence here, Ed. You know what that function is?
I'm looking at the most actives.
Saying hello to our audience.
Oh.
Waiting and Weed. Hey, Justin. Oh, Justin. Oh, Waiting and Weed is talking to Justin. This is interesting. Hi, Justin. Yeah. We're going to have some more content from Justin, I think, this week.
Can we talk too?
Yeah. Freedom Unleashed is here. Heavy Metal. IRA. Neil Fletcher. Oh, he's having conversations. What about MPX? So MPX. Okay, so we got to get Scott Boys MPX, right? We'll get Scott Boys in here. It's back. Suzanne, note to self: contact Scott Boys. The audience wants an interview with Scott. Let's see. Robert Ait is here. Hello, Robert. Toronto. Everybody from west of Yonge be buying them some High Park. That's I see. Robert, is High Park a dispensary or something? Somebody's plugging a dispensary in the West End on our chat. I think that's hilarious. When is Tilray going to use its 4 billion Canadian paper to buy someone? Hint, hint, TRST. Now that's an interesting comment because we had Brad
TRST
here,
was up yesterday.
and we had Brad Rogers in here yesterday. Coincidence? I don't think so. But Brad revealed something very interesting to me after the camera was off. And I said, Brad, are you guys not considering acquisitions using your
currency?
paper? Or are you not under consideration for an acquisition? And Brad said, we're at the table in both cases. So, TRST, you know, could be in play very soon here. Is Tilray going to be the one that takes them out? That's an interesting concept. That's an interesting question. But probably a good call. I don't see there's much downside left in Tilray. Ed,
Well,
Freedom Unleashed is pointing out that Ed literally has rose-colored glasses.
So are you suggesting that I'm looking at this industry through the
Reefer Al,
lens-
possibly. Reefer Al Joint is joining us from Orlando, Florida today. Neil Fletcher, don't know where he is, but he's here. Visual Adrenaline, nice job, Neil. Hey guys, boy am I glad I sold my Suncor holding yesterday to average down on Aurora and Afria. Almost back in the green, still missed on Canopy, but hell, can't win them all.
Wow.
Congratulations, Neil.
Astute move.
Very astute move.
Yeah.
Get rid of that Suncor. Who needs oil fields anyways?
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. Visual Adrenaline says, yes. So everybody's got their hats off and a bow down. Big bow down and shout out
Big
to
bow
Bruce.
down.
Bruce Linton will be here tomorrow morning. Actually, no, he's going to be in the live stream tomorrow afternoon. And we're going to talk to Bruce about what's next for Constellation Canopy. I mean, where are they going to get the $5 billion? A, what's that going to do for the liquidity, or rather the valuation of Canopy going forward?
Right. Can I, when you're through talking about what you're talking about, I'd like to change the subject here for a minute.
Oh, feel free.
Can I do it now?
Why not?
So a while back, I brought up a gentleman, introduced you to a guy by the name of Kurt Sorshak from Zebek in Montreal.
Oh, yeah. XRO? No.
Zebek XBC.
XBC, right.
And
knew
I
it was
wanted
another
to point
X one.
out that when I started looking at this, and I was introduced to this by Tony Nunziata out of Calgary, and he introduced me to Chris Wardle, who was a very good broker at Lead. He said, look at this, and I decided to get involved, and they hired me for a while to help get eyes on the story. The stock was 11 cents when I made my first purchase. Well, today I noticed the stock actually traded at $1.04, which is almost 10 times.
So it's doing well.
Well, they're getting contracts galore.
Okay, so the XBC.
Put up that chart.
Let's
Put up
have a
that
look.
chart.
Let's
Let's just
have a
take a look. And I want to. Okay, so let's put up a 3-year chart.
3-year?
Yeah, because I want to show this move because. Okay,
There's
so
a 3-year.
2000. Here we go. Look at this. This is under a dime. 2016.
Yeah.
I sort of got involved in here.
Wow. You still holding stock, Ed?
I'm not that smart.
Poor Ed.
I know. You know what? But
looking on the bright side.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. That's the highest we've seen. I think you can go back 5-6 years. But I am led to believe that they're becoming more and more recognized.
So at 99 cents, is this a buy?
Yeah, it could be cheap at 99 cents. Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, watch. We see our RSI starting to creep up too, right?
Well, yeah, that's close to 80.
Yeah, it was 74. It's getting there. Yeah. So you got to be careful. But I mean, look, and then it fell off sharply here, and where the RSI probably got to 25.
Right.
And then what was it? A buy. And then they made some announcements. They just got an increased line of credit from the Canada Development Bank. So now they have the capital.
And what do they do?
It's a very hard. It's about renewable energy. They're involved in the renewable energy area.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take a look at some of our favorites before. Well, the closes.
Yeah,
it's
we're
been closed for a little while now.
Yeah.
Not XRO US. XRO CNX. You silly machine. XRO closed at 47, backfilled at the end of the day by House 13.
Did it get up
again.
to? But that's look. It was a positive day.
Yeah.
But look we've got a good
Let me back it out a bit here to give you.
Just maybe make it there. Look at this. When was the last time you saw 5 successive days of reasonable volume?
Yeah.
Something's changing here.
Well, we're buying it.
Is it that obvious?
Yeah.
Why are the things that I think are sort of arcane and esoteric so obvious to you?
I don't know. Maybe because we're on the same wavelength. It's like,
maybe we're on different wavelengths.
Well, maybe.
Anyway, you know what? We're pushing forward here.
Yeah.
And
I want to see what the GLDN closed at here, because that's a pretty sizey position for me now.
Sizey.
Yeah, sizey. Oh, I was going to say GLDN closed at 70 cents. That would be something.
30.
It's closed at 30. So, yeah, that's. But what a day, eh? What was the volume for the day? Where's the volume here? The volume for the day was 8.18 million.
Well, that's actually only on the venture.
Right.
Because all those virtual exchanges aren't included.
Oh, that's true.
I'd pick up the phone, but apparently it's a no-no.
Yeah, that's right. Or we can just go look at Stockwatch, where we can also see where all the full day is. And survey says GLDN. Boy, look at the broader markets though. Dow down 137, NASDAQ off 100, TSX down 182, Venture down 5.91, London Gold down. Whoa.
I was having lunch with my good friend Jeff Green today.
Yeah.
And he told me that he just made a comment. We were having a bite to eat, and he said the Dow is down 250. So if it's only down 135 on the close, that's a good comeback, a bit of a good comeback.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them resolve this trade thing, because no one's going to win. And the average guy is the guy that's going to take it on the chin here.
You think?
Well, that's just the way it usually works, isn't it?
Let's take a quick
So here's
look.
the real volume, 11. So Mike asked me last night, what did I think the volume was going to be? I said around 12.
Right. Right again.
Well.
All right, why don't we take a look at the most actives today to see if there's anything revealing in there for tomorrow. Market movers, here we go. Big mover of the day, Golden Ridge, biggest volume.
Wow.
Calitera Therapeutics, 4.5 million shares.
Aben there, down a couple.
Aben, down 2 cents on the day. So a lot of selling off from these gold names. Calitera Therapeutics, what do they do? Do we know?
No, I don't. I don't know that one.
New Strike up a nickel. Quantum Numbers. That's an interesting number company I've been hearing a bit about. Oxley up 4 cents. Recovered ground to 78. Rising tide lifting all boats. Oh, look at Hash Chain. What a disaster that one's become. But it's up up a penny and a half.
What was the high on Hash Chain? Was it $1 or something?
52-week high. Let's see. Can we get a chart up here very easily? No, we can't.
Supreme has had a nice move, up 10% today.
Yeah, the rising tide lifting all boats.
Yeah.
Radiant Technologies, FanLogic, Emerald Health.
Sable, look at Sable. Tom Obradovich was on the show recently.
Yeah,
up
29.
Yeah, look at this.
Huh. That's up substantially. I'm not going to start chasing that one around too. I can only chase so many stocks.
If you're a hound, you can only chase so many cars.
You can never get them all, Ed.
You know, you can only chase so many cars.
Whoa, look at the TSX.
Whoa.
Top 3 performers on the TSX, all green, of course, are the cannabis majors, Aurora, Canopy, and Afria.
And then not far behind, Hydropothecary.
Yeah, and then 4th on the list is that federal welfare case, Bombardier Inc., where we seem to be underwriting the wealth and lifestyle of a single family in the province of Quebec, which don't know how that works.
You know that the price of oil, I'm just looking at Canadian natural gas and some of the energy issues. There's been some carnage in the oil patch today.
Yeah.
Real carnage. I think the price of oil was down at least $2 a barrel.
Well, all the commodities are taking it thanks to the situation with the fraudulent U.S. dollar.
I think we've got to go electric once and for all.
No kidding.
How is Patriot doing? Up 6 cents.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's take a look at Patriot for today.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Let's put up Pat. Pat's been coming under a bit of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of abdication of faith. There was a story that the Los Angeles subway system is testing.
I was listening to you talk about that.
A new detection system out of a company in the UK, which kind of
very high tech,
but photographic based. So the ability of photography is limited to penetrate concealed weapons. For example, if you have a weapon
concealed in lead.
Well, and if it's concealed in lead, the microwave system won't find it either.
Really?
Well, no.
Well, that's what they should do then.
Well, just carry around. Well, so that means if it detects a lead case, pull the guy over. He's probably packing.
Is there Ed in lead?
No, there's not.
Well, not really.
No.
There's Ad in
Unless
lead.
It's a Scottish, a Gaelic spelling, E-A-D. Eid. 33 and a third percent
economic growth.
Economic growth. There you go. Bless my soul. Anyways.
You could be you know what? You could be a bit of a leprechaun. You know? Oh.
Let's see. We haven't said hello to our Facebook peeps here today. So Glenn Z is there. Heidi Lang is back. Hi, Heidi. Andrew Kittle, one of our stronger supporters. Pat Quirk. Hello, Pat. Jennifer Mason Haas. Hello, Jennifer Mason Haas. What kind of pharmaceutical play is Canopy going to do? We'll ask Bruce that tomorrow. He's going to be here. Let's see. Michael Barron. Yeah, I'm going to say Barron. Retired boss man at Stony Creek Dairy. Ah, you're just down the road. Did he just call us hippies? I think he might have. I don't know what you're referring to. That comment was from a while ago. But hello to everybody on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Look at that. The audience is setting new records again. My God. Look, God, what have I done? All right, and then let's go to this YouTube channel and see if anybody has anything intelligent to ask us.
I'm sure everything our viewership would well, everything they add would be intelligent.
Yes. All right, let's see. Oh, there's a conversation going on that has nothing to do with us, Ed. They're talking about Canopy, and they're talking about patient acquisition, and they're talking about TRST, because we were just talking about TRST. But, Freedom Unleashed says, James, remember the Taminco debacle back in the day? That was my biggest and hardest lesson in the market. What was yours? Well, Taminco was one of the bigger lessons for sure, but I didn't play it because it was, I don't
remember that one for some reason.
Taminco was the improved solar panels or solar panel components, solar chips, more or less. Eric Sprott was a big shareholder. He was the closest I've ever seen Eric to getting into some trouble because he bought the biggest position and then sold it all and advised everybody after the fact. Didn't go over all that well, but everybody makes mistakes.
Eric looked after himself.
Well, I can't make that call qualitatively, but I do recall that the press had a field day, as they say. So yeah, that was a big lesson. And I guess what the lesson Freedom Unleashed is referring to is the idea that when things look like it's nothing but positive, the company's on the way to a total success, the unthinkable can happen, and it can turn out to be a debacle, as he says, and the stock just crashed and wiped out so much investor world. But the big one for me, the biggest one ever, which I'm sure was the biggest one for a lot of people,
Bre-X.
And Enron.
You ever heard the adage, buy to the sounds of cannons, sell to the sounds of
pigs whining in the street?
No, trumpets.
Trumpets.
Sell to the sounds of trumpets.
Oh.
In other words, when things look rosy, out you go.
Huh.
When things look shitty, like yesterday, remember how? I mean, the pain meter was fairly pronounced. The pain meter.
We need to get a pain meter. Ooh, we need to create a graphic pain meter.
Anyway,
for our private operation.
There was some. If people were saying, "What's going on here? I can't take it." Blah blah blah. I thought it was going to continue, but then good old Constellation Brands to the rescue.
Yeah. How good was the movie Gold, says Freedom Unleashed, with Matthew McConaughey? Was that not? Did you see Gold? It was actually made in part by a local bunch of Canadian film guys.
That was about
Brix. Well, it was loosely based on Brix. The film was supposed to be about Brix, but I met one of the guys who was the main fundraiser for that film. I was trying to get him to fund one of my projects.
Right.
He says, as soon as I'm done with this Brix film, I'll come and help you out. And it turned out that they didn't make a direct reference to Brix because they had to take too many cinematic liberties to make it a better film, because the realities weren't quite as packed as Hollywood likes it to be. So that was, but it made it a phenomenal film. I thought it was a phenomenal film.
Okay, well, that was a pretty good show. We talked about a lot of things.
One more comment from John Macciose. I don't know how to say your last name, John. I apologize. If you could shoot a little pronunciation guide into the comment box, we'll try to make sense of that. He says, James and Ed, I love that you guys are also into gold. Check out Equinox Gold, EQX, when you get a chance. Ross Beatty is the co-founder, chairman, and largest shareholder. Production begins end of year. Ross was my neighbor on Bowen Island for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And I, in fact, once picked him up hitchhiking, and we then all almost capsized and drowned in a crossing over to the mainland.
Wow.
At least that's the way it seemed to me.
Anyway, I'm getting a little, so I'm sensing some urgent, something urgent.
Really?
Yes.
Well, oh, I see. I see. Well, and so ends another day. 33% economic growth. Be back tomorrow. We're going to have Bruce Linton is going to be here. Who else have we got? Let me check the calendar quickly before we say goodbye. We got Bruce Linton. We have we have Bruce Linton and Cam Batley in the same day. But will we have them on the same show? I don't think so. We have a company called Fluorotech tomorrow. I don't even know what they do. We have, Alcanna CEO, James Burns. Alcanna is Aurora's retail store strategy in Canada. So tomorrow is going to be crazy. Tune in at 3 o'clock p.m. Like us and love us on Facebook, YouTube, all those different things. Follow us on Twitter. Ed, do you have anything you'd like to add? Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I'm out of here.